call, please.
Yeltsin.
Here.
Colosimo.
Present.
Pat.
Here.
Milshewski.
Here.
Munns.
Here.
Bunkhauser.
Here.
Spears.
Present.
Seeley.
Here.
46.
Do we have any amendments to the agenda? Diane?
On the consent agenda, I'd like to take off item number 5.
Okay.
The, what is it? It's not, it's the
Okay. Put it under admin.
procedural ordinance. I just have some questions.
And Bart, you wanted to take 4 off, you said?
Yes.
And number 4 will come off and go under admin. Any other amendments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Let's see. We have one presentation this evening. We're swearing in of a new patrol officer, Officer Roman Silving. Please come up forward. Raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Roman Silving,
Have been appointed to the office of patrol officer
am appointed to the officer of patrol officer
for the United City of Yorkville
for the United City of Yorkville
in the county of Kendall aforesaid.
and the county of Kendall, aforesaid,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
to support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of patrol officer
the duties of officer of patrol officer
of the United City of Yorkville Police Department
of the United States of Yorkville Police Department
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
There you go. Okay, next on the agenda, we do have a public hearing on the tax levy. Do I need a motion to go to public hearing?
No, you don't, just, you gotta clear it open.
Okay, public hearing is now open. And Mr. Olson has a little presentation, a 10-minute presentation. He's going to get done in 6 minutes.
Okay, again, this is the public hearing required by statute for the city's annual operational tax levy. It is required because it is in the Property Tax Extension Limitation Law and the Truth in Taxation Act. The reason is different subtotals this year of the city's levy are actually increasing by an amount more than 5%, although we do anticipate the city's entire property tax levy to decrease by a substantial percentage, which I'll get into in a minute, and the city wants your input. We don't get what we ask for. So each year, for the past 10 years, except for one, we have asked for an amount above and beyond our property tax cap. That each year has allowed us to capture property tax revenue under that tax cap in the maximum amount possible in order to fund growth and other operational expenses. So as an example, last year we asked for $3.42 million and we got $3.32. So we were right on with our amounts. We had actually asked for each year about $100,000 more than what we expected. So that year we were very close to our estimate. The amount that is in the public notice this year is $3.626 million. We think we're actually going to get $3.40 million. And I'll get into this in a second. And now this is only for taxes associated with operational costs for the city and the library. Doesn't include the building construction for the library, which is voted on by referendum, and then property taxes associated with debt, which we had a big conversation about last year, and the abatement and non-abatement of those property taxes. For those of you that have been following this discussion for the past month, we had actually estimated as recently as a couple weeks ago that our projected property tax was going to be $3.504 million. And it went down recently just based on some updated numbers that we got from the Kendall County Clerk. So we actually think we're going to get even less than what we had originally communicated to everybody a month ago. So again, we think we're going to get 3.4, but we levy 3.62 to make sure we can capture all the property taxes under the property tax cap. That amount is about $77,000 more than last year, and that entire increase is going to catch up on our police pension system payments. We've been slightly underfunding police pension obligations for the past several years. We have a relatively young fund. We have young police officers, not a lot of retirees, and so we've been trying to build that up each year. And so this year we're actually taking a giant leap forward, or at least proposing to, in our police pension system. And then the other amount goes straight to the library operations. So what does that mean for you? Well, we have two calculations this year, which we didn't have last year. Normally when I show you this chart, you've got the amount that you paid last year and the amount that you paid this year. Well, we wanted to break this down into two things because we felt that it was important to discuss the city's operational levy, which goes to pay for police, public works, admin, finance, community relations, parks and recreation, all the departments that we have in the budget that are funded. So this increase, the small increase from year to year, without any property tax bonds, so that's all the non-abatements that we did last year, those property taxes to increase dramatically on the city side, is the operational costs are only going to go up $2, let's say, if your assessed value went down 6% this year. However, when you factor in the city's entire cost, you factor in those property tax non-abatements that we did last year, your tax bill that's going to say City of Yorkville is actually going to go down $206 or $208. So a substantial decrease from last year to this year, even though the city's portion of the operational cost is going to tick up just slightly. Again, if your property got reassessed and it went down 10%, which is about the average, you're going to pay $15 less without bonds and operational costs only, and with the bonds included, which is what you're actually going to see on your tax bill, it's going to go down even more than that. So if you were one of the unfortunate people that your property values actually went up, or maybe you did an addition on your home and it's good that it went up, it's going to go up a different amount, and then obviously the property tax non-abatement is still going to go down a substantial amount. It's just less so than some of the other ones. And if you had no reassessment in your home, you'll pay probably $25, $26 more on your operational costs. But again, when you factor in those non-abatements, you're looking at a decrease of about $180. So a very substantial decrease from the city's perspective. Again, just to give you an idea of what we're doing overall compared to the other taxing bodies, the City of Yorkville is $872 up here in the top left corner. On average, it's about 10% of your tax bill. This is based on last year's figures. Not everybody else has levied yet, so we don't know where we're going to be there. But I would suspect that we will be much smaller than we were last year as a percentage of the total tax bill. So an increase in the tax rate, if you were looking at the taxes from year to year, yes. But we're asking for an amount under the tax cap, so we're still restricted by growth. The tax cap increase from last year to this year is 1.5%. Really, your tax bill is going to depend on your share of the pie, which I'll go through in just a second. If your neighbor's house gets reassessed at a greater value than yours does, then you're going to pay more of the pie, so your tax bill is going to go up, even though all the other variables in play might go down. So I showed this last year. We'll show it again. We're going to be in Mr. Condo again this year. We have a $33,000 EAV house. We pay $125 in taxes. So here's scenario 2. Housing market comes in, wipes everybody out of their value equally, 50%. Everybody's house is now worth half as much as it was last year, but everybody still pays the same amount in property taxes because the city's budget doesn't necessarily change. So Mr. Condo is still paying $125 per year. If you go through and the people in your neighborhood get reassessed at a lower value than you do, so Mrs. Family and Uncle Pennybags lose 50%, but your home only gets reassessed at 25% decrease, your amount goes from $125 to $176. So that's a $50 increase because you have a bigger piece of the pie. Here's another scenario, maybe a little bit more realistic. One guy gets his house reassessed at a 25% loss, somebody else at 7%, and you're the unfortunate person that still gets a 5% decrease. You still have a larger piece of the pie. Mr. Condo is still paying $144 this year as opposed to $125 last year. And then here's a scenario 5 where you actually add a fourth house, which is new construction, which we do see. And again, it just depends. If you get reassessed at a 6% decrease and other people at a lower amount, you're paying $136 instead of $125. So really it depends on the relative value of your increase or decrease compared to your neighbors. So why do you need more money for operations? Again, because the overall city property tax is going to go down. Revenues have decreased dramatically from their peak. We've talked about it each year in the budget process for the past few years, so won't get into that too much. And then all incremental property taxes from last year to this year are either going to fund the library or they're going to fund police pensions. So we're not actually putting any of that money into city operations. The property tax cap is a restriction on our ability to manage our budget from year to year. It was designed that way so municipalities wouldn't just automatically increase their levy amount, by 30% each year to capture an increase in property tax values. So, but in growing areas, that can be an issue. Typically, expenses outpace your revenues. Why else would we need more money? Well, we still have a general fund balance below zero. Hopefully we're turning that around this year, but that means that our general fund actually has no money in a savings account for emergency purposes. And we have several long-term capital projects. You're familiar with them. We're trying to fund them over a multi-year period. The best reason, though, is, again, we're increasing the operational levy slightly, but your overall city property tax is probably going to decrease 30% next year because of our debt property taxes that are going to be removed to a large extent from your property tax bill. So we are anticipating that we're going to have to levy about $730,000 for debts in years past, but we're trying to scale that down each year. And then hopefully, for the next 3 years, your property taxes for the city will decrease by a percentage each year thereafter. So please note, again, all these figures are estimates. County clerk gives us a different estimate. That can change the rate. We could miscalculate something slightly on the levy. It could change by a couple dollars. So this has to be certified actually in May. And the City Council isn't voting on this tonight. So we expect everybody to give their input. It does have to be voted on at the latest by the first meeting in December, which gives us 2 meetings to discuss it, one in November and one in December. And that's it.
Thank you, Bert. Do we have any public comment? Okay, we will close public hearing and go on to citizen comments. Do we have citizens' comments on any other issue? Jesse? Please state your name for the record, sir.
Yes, Your Honor. Jesse Alaniz, Colonial Parkway. Your Honor, I've had to change my comments from what I was going to give earlier this evening. I just wanted to bring to your attention to this council that we need to be careful with the taxes that we're doing, what we're raising. As you know, there was quite a few. I had sent out a spreadsheet earlier this week with all the jobs that have been lost. Again, people in the state of Illinois are getting fed up. Businesses are getting fed up. Employees who have had good jobs are getting fed up, leaving the state. The employees, the businesses are not replacing those employees. This evening, in the news, there are 7 companies the planned 700 more layoffs that have been reported to the state of Illinois. Some of these you already know about. Obviously, the Lowe's home centers, 177 layoffs. Temple Inland Inc., which makes shipping boxes, 95 positions in Elgin, 77 jobs in Chicago when it closes its 2 locations. Mildred Manufacturing close its doors in Aurora permanently, 87 jobs lost. Rich Products Corporation, which produces baking industry supplies, will shut down its Wheeling location and let 86 workers go. The Hickory Ridge Marriott Conference Center in Lyle will be shutting down its operations. 84 jobs lost. Ryder Integrated Logistics will shut down its Joliet operations and eliminate 62 more jobs. ProGrill Holdings, as you all know, here in Yorkville, has reported that it will close its location here in Yorkville, 58 jobs lost. There's a long list of taxes that we already pay. I'll bring those up sometime this evening. But, Your Honor, I want to let you know in this council that I have full faith in you with what you do. And a lot of the times what happens with government is that we entrust the local bodies, the county bodies, the state bodies, etc. At the moment, let them pass legislation, let them pass laws, only in the future to be abused by other people who come into power. So this evening I would ask that whatever discussion on taxes or whatever actions this council takes, please not just look at today, but also what this means in the future. Thank you, sir. I yield the floor.
My name is Dan Nicholson. As per my comments last week, we will have this meeting in public if necessary. Mr. Galinsky, you seem to have a real aversion for the truth, so I figured I'd come by this evening and help you out with your faulty memory. You stated in the Kent County Record after last week's meeting, when I get complaints, my job is to follow through on ordinances passed by the City Council. When I asked Ms. Noble directly last June in a meeting at the City Park as to who had complained and specifically what about, she stated to me that there had been no complaints filed. So the truth is, Mr. Galinsky, you did not get a complaint about my business, contrary to your statement to the press. In the Beacon News, you stated you never remembered getting an invitation to talk privately with Nicholson about the matter. Perhaps I was a little too subtle for you in the last meeting, Mr. Galinsky. I met with Ms. Noble and Mr. Harden again last June, the City Park, at which time she had offered to set up a meeting between us and that it would be no problem to get done. Quite embarrassed, she called me the following morning to inform me that you had refused to meet with me. You had made it quite known that you would be coming after me after the election to any number of people. On numerous occasions, I had suggested to you personally, myself, that we should meet to resolve any outstanding matters that existed between us. I have never heard a word from you, Mr. Galinsky. That is the fact of the matter. You stated in the record that you had offered to Nicholson personally to come help clean up his property. Again, simply put, this has never occurred. And again, is an out-and-out lie on your behalf. Secondly, cleaning up is not what you cited me for, sir. So why then would I need your help to clean up? In conclusion, Mr. Galinsky, I believe you'd be a liar. But I'm willing to make a good faith effort to attempt to make an honest man out of you. be in front of my business at 5 p.m. this Friday and be ready to get to work cleaning up. Just maybe, you can start to clean up the mess you've made out of a business relationship between one of the largest landowners in your downtown, who's been in business in downtown for over 25 years, thus making me one of the oldest businesses in downtown, which incidentally is over 3 times as long as you've lived in this community. Given that only one member of the press corps had bothered to contact me following the last meeting, I thought the rest of you might need my phone number. It is 630-553-7612. Now you can follow in the immortal footsteps of Paul Harvey and give the people the rest of the story. Good evening.
Do you have any other public comment? Mr. Lane?
Thank you very much for allowing me to speak with you today. My name is Dan Lane. I am a retired school principal from the Berwyn Oak Park area, and I live in Heartlands. And I'm asking you tonight, I've come tonight to ask you to vote to continue and support the rec center and not contemplate its closure. I think I have my glasses on. I've been a resident of Yorkville for the past year and a half and was drawn to retire in your community by many fine things. Fine housing, excellent fire and police services, superior schools, excellent medical facilities, excellent public works department, wonderful mail service, great garbage pickup, and a friendly and vibrant community base. You should be very proud of what you have done here in Yorkville. As a daily user of the rec center with my wife, it is obvious the positive impact it does have on our lives, the lives of every age group in town. The youth with their many sports and education activities, its child daycare programs, the fact that mothers and fathers, young adults and senior citizens, and those that need to continue their physical therapy use these facilities. I'm asking you, have you been there lately to take a look? Please visit and see firsthand what's going on and observe the smiling faces of those serviced. You cannot put a dollar amount on their satisfaction with the facility. This establishment enriches the value of your community, our community, and also enriches the lives of those who participate. I understand the rec center may be losing some money at this time, but is every service in the town instituted to make money at a profit? Are the police, fire services, garbage and water and streets departments here to make a profit? Is our city here just to make money, or to service and enrich the lives of the people that we have living here? You and I deserve a well-rounded community with proper community services. You are in a position to make an important decision for the future of Yorkville. What is your vision of the future of Yorkville? You know, I always thought our city officials were forward-looking and progressive as I've been here. Do you want our city to have the services more like a Naperville or a Plano? Please make the correct decisions by first visiting the facility on many occasions and becoming informed. I, as a former school principal, cannot create a proper teacher evaluation without visiting the teacher's classroom many times and observing the staff member in action with the students. I certainly would not evaluate a teacher just on the opinions of others without seeing them interacting with the students and observing student performance. I know I understand that some people will contact you about closing the facility, but believe me, they are in the minority and probably do not see any value in the facility since they don't use it. You know, I've never used the fire department, the police department, or ambulance, any of the services yet, but I certainly don't want to abolish them simply because they have not used them and they don't make a profit. Please don't oil the squeaky wheel. The majority of our people in our community love the rec center, see its value out to the community, but do not contact you because they're happy. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Give the rec center a chance to evolve into something that you will be proud of in the future. Just like a child when they're small, please be patient. Patience is a virtue which I'm sure you all possess. I was reminded of an old Al Donner song in 1978. You probably weren't even born then. You don't know what you've got till you lose it. Remember, once it's gone, something is gone, it's probably gone forever and will never return. We have over 1,400 members at the rec center, 8% of our population. It seems that the rec center must have some value to them and their families. Finally, today, I called my old stomping grounds in Berwyn and Cicero and Oak Park, and I talked to Joe Velez, the director of the North Berwyn Park District. Jeff Jander, the director of the Berlin Park District, Tony Martinucci, the Berlin Rec Department, which again is run by the city of Berlin under Mayor Lavero, and they all stated none of them ever makes a profit or even feel that a profit is necessary to prove and defend the services of their agencies. Finally, I hope you make the correct decision, remembering that it will chart the course of further Yorkville programs in the future. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lane. Do we have any other public comment?
City Council. My name is Amy Sessage. Thank you, sir, for saying that about the rec center. Feels like I'm the only one sometimes rooting for that, and I appreciate your comments. As you see, there is a community out here that wants the rec center. But I wasn't here to talk about that. I actually was here to talk about the pavement management study that we talked about the last meeting. That actually is something I didn't know a lot about, and I, speaking to my alderman today and actually researching it a little bit, am not really in favor of that study, even though normally I am in favor of studies because it does help allocate future funds and things like that. So I would like, I don't know if you're voting on that tonight, but I would like you to really take a look at that, consider the fact that $100,000 is a lot of money on something that, even if it is decided that we need the roads improved, which we do, we don't have the funds to do that right now. And $100,000 on a study that could be actually put towards the roads would be better to be done to put towards the roads and not the study. So thank you so much. I didn't plan on speaking tonight, so thank you for listening.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Hi, my name is Lisa Peterson, 1001 Adrian Street. I just kind of wanted to point out a couple of things, comments I didn't agree with. If 1,400 people are going to the rec center and that's 8% of the population, that is not a majority. I said last city council meeting 2 weeks ago, and I'll say it again tonight, when I pay my property taxes, there are certain things that I expect from my city services. Streets are one of them. Police, fire, not necessarily recreational facilities, especially when there are private other options available to the residents, such as the Y in Plano, which our family were members of for the first 2 years when we moved here. Excellent facility. Actually, their membership dues are cheaper than the rec center. You got Anytime Fitness. There's Cardinal Fitness in Oswego. There are other facilities in this area. And, you know, as far as the road study goes, I think it's something the city does need to consider. Maybe they need to put it on the back burner for a couple of years until they have more money to do it. Or maybe they need to do half of it one year, half of it the next year. But as far as whether anybody's for or against the road study for the repair of our roads, I feel our roads that all the residents use 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, I feel that that's much more important than $42,000 for a bike path. You know, you asked the residents twice about the bike paths. We voted. We had a referendum. Both times the residents said no. That was the majority of the vote. And if some people that are proponents or in support of the bike paths want to come back and say that it wasn't a majority, like a lot of the people that were pushing and claiming, but the majority of the residents that voted said no, they didn't want the bike paths. And so I'm a little confused why this city council would vote yes to spend $42,000 on a bike path because one resident stands up here and says they're not connected to anything. Well, they bought their house 6, 7, 8 years ago. They knew they were on the outskirts of town. There's only one business. I'm a little confused actually as to where this bike path is supposedly going, but there's only one business that's south of Route 71 and east of Route 47, and that's the Family Dollar restaurant. And so if you put a bike path over by Rain Tree Village, that's going to connect those residents to that restaurant. That's it. There's no other businesses that it's going to connect them to. You know, you're going to give your 10-year-old kid money to go to McDonald's and hear a bunch of sirens in the background in the distance? No 10-year-old kid carries an ID with them. To find out 3 hours later that your kid got ran over by a semi trying to cross Route 47? The bike path there isn't going to connect the residents to anything. The roads will. And, if you're talking about dollars or cents, maybe we should hold off on everything until the city is in a more financially solvent position and can afford the extras. It's great if somebody wants to move here after retirement because they have the funds and the means to do so. But, a lot of residents are losing their houses. There's a lot of foreclosures. There's a lot of people losing their jobs. And I just think the majority of the residents that have been really hit hard with these hard economic times would rather see the monies go for road repairs for the roads that desperately need it versus recreational facilities where they can go work out when they have other options, or a bike trail that leads nowhere. And, I've said all this before to the city council, and I don't mean to sound like a broken record. And I know you had an open hearing with the tax health thing, and I'm against that as well. I'd like to be able to stand here and tell you that I make $20,000 a year, but that I spend $30,000 a year. And since I can't afford it, I keep going to my boss every year and asking him for a $10,000 raise. But at some point the city has to say, okay, look, we're only taking in this much money, so this is all we have to spend. We have to learn to live within our means like a lot of the other residents in town. And, I've got my pay stubs to prove it if you don't believe me. I don't make $20,000 a year. I make $12,000 a year because I lost my job and I was out of work for 10 and a half months. And after looking for a job for 22 months, that's all I found. And I still continue to spend at least 10 hours a week looking for other employment. That's my options. I make $12,000 a year. I've got a son in college. I've got a mortgage. I've got utilities. I've got groceries. And that's great that the taxes are going to get lowered because of the refinancing of the sewer bonds. But yet in the next breath you want to say you want to go ahead and raise the levy. My taxes maybe won't be as much this next year as they were last year, but at some point the city has to say, okay, look, we can't keep going back to the residents and saying, we need more money, we need more money, we need more money. I can't do that to my boss. I can't go to him every year and say, I need a raise because I'm spending more money than what you're paying me. That's not an option. It's not feasible. That's not how real life works. And, I've said it before to the old council, and I'm saying it again to the new council. You really have to knuckle down and decide what is important and what is not important, what is a want and what is a need as far as running the city goes. The mayor, the previous mayor made a really tough decision to lay off staff members. Nobody wants to see anybody lose their job. And it's unfortunate that it had to happen. But what was even more unfortunate is that it didn't happen 2 years prior when it was first recommended. There's been a lot of criticism with the new city council with eliminating the engineering department. And I agreed with the city council on that decision because if we can have the same services outsourced at a cheaper price, at this point we need to do it. We need to look at every possible conceivable way to save money so that the city can function. People don't understand, but there's so many people that are going bankrupt. And if the city continues on this path, I truly, honestly see the city going bankrupt in another 5 years. There's been so many foreclosures in our neighborhood and so many houses that are sitting empty now. It's like, how many more residents are you going to force out of their homes because the property taxes are going up and up and up because we want bike trails and rec centers? At some point, you have to decide what is important to the residents and what is not. And everybody, every single resident, whether they live in Yorkville or another town, expects certain things. They expect police protection. They expect fire protection. They expect decent roads that aren't falling apart to drive on. But they don't necessarily expect bike trails and all the bells and whistles and all the extras. And I just really urge the city council to be very conservative with their votes and what they're spending with my tax dollars. And whether you appreciate the criticism or not, you all put yourselves out there. You wanted these positions. You campaigned for them. You asked the residents for their support. The residents gave you their support. You're all in office now. You take a lot of compliments and you take a lot of criticism, and I admire you all. I know none of you get paid a lot of money for what you do up here, and you devote a lot of your hours. And we appreciate the strong sense of community service that you all have. But in essence, you're all sitting here tonight because the taxpayers and the residents and the voters wanted you here. because of what you assured them during your campaign that you would promise, that you would watch the bottom dollar with the city budget. And, it's going to be interesting next year to see what happens with that city budget, because I'd like to see even more get cut than what got cut last year. And I mean, working out and exercising is a great thing. I used to do it. I wish I started to do it again because I need it. And I mean, God bless all those people that go to the rec center and get enjoyment out of it and feel better about themselves and their lives. If the city had the money, if the residents had the money, I wouldn't object to it so much. But right now, these are tough economic times, and we just don't have it. And the people that can afford a facility like that have other options available to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, moving on. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second. Comments, questions? Roll call.
I just have one it's just a question on PS 2011-32. Do we not have an ordinance previously for public urination and defecation? Is that something you haven't had in the past?
We did. But the reason why we did this ordinance is so we can enforce it under our adjudication. And set the fines for it.
Okay.
So that was the transformation.
Okay. That'd be one that we...
You were free to do
for
that.
sure, we think we'd have, and I thought, wow,
I asked the same question.
Thank you.
On a roll call, please.
Colosimo.
Aye.
Milczewski.
Aye.
Spears.
Aye.
Lyons.
Aye.
Buckhauser.
Aye.
Gilson.
Aye.
Keeling.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye. Okay, next I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the regular city council meeting for October 25th, 2011, as presented.
Second.
Any motion?
So moved.
And Rose second. Carolyn Rose. Questions, comments, corrections? George?
I have multiple corrections. First one starts on page 3 of 8. Under Public Works Committee report, second paragraph says Alderman Gilson wanted to know why this item was brought back to committee to discuss the changes. That should be was not brought back to committee to discuss the changes. Page 4 of 8, either first, second, third paragraph down. It says Alderman Gilson stated it sounds good, but the problem is the city can budget for everything, and if the money is not there, it is not there. Then the city still has roads that need repair and other essential services that need to be handled. Then the city may not have the money to spend on what is needed. This is an item of priority. It should be this is not an item of priority. Second paragraph, same page, says that the city can still forward. Excuse me. The city can still go forward, still have 47, and have this project to go forward with a letter of understanding. Should be where it says still have Route 47. It should be inserted, widened, and improved. So it should say still have Route 47 widened and improved. Page 7 of 8, second paragraph. Got multiple corrections in that paragraph. It says this is sending a message that it is fine for all tax embodies. That should be taxing bodies, not tax embodies. And to take the maximum cap should be to take their maximum cap. And the end result would be increased taxes. He believes that, says the city is taxed too much already. That should be the residents are taxed too much already. And I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Anyone else? Jackie?
Page 5 of 8, first paragraph, first sentence, Mayor Galinsky said court, 3rd District, is putting in the 10-foot standard IDOT trails. I'm not quite sure what that is.
District 3?
I never said District 3. I would have said Kendall County.
Yeah.
Kendall County or Oswego is putting in 10-foot trails.
So what should it say?
I'm going to see.
It didn't make any sense.
Probably Kendall County is putting in 10-foot standard IDOT trails.
Same paragraph, it said they stated the project was to be estimated. I clarified if it, I think it should read Alderman Milszewski clarified that this project is estimated to be started in 2017. Then the next paragraph, I asked if the $42,000 figure was at today's prices. I asked if the $42,000 figure was at today's price. And then the vote is entirely incorrect on that motion. There were nays and a present, and it's not reflected. And that's all I have.
Anyone else?
I have one. I guess I'm just confused on page 6 of 8. I was talking about the, and it is a confusing topic all the time because it's about abating and not abating, but I just want to make sure that, but I think what I said was if the theory holds true, because this is where I was asking about that the city is going to have to still not abate taxes. We're still, there's still some money that we're going to have to not abate. And I said, if the theory holds true, she is not going to vote to not abate those bonds. So I don't know if that's right. It's very confusing to me. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think what she's trying to say
Is there's an extra not
so
in
she
there,
doesn't
isn't
want
it?
to raise she doesn't want to raise taxes, but the city is still going to have to do it. You mean not abate,
Not abate.
right?
Yes, we're still going to have to not abate some of those bonds next year. I don't know if, maybe can you just listen to that part again and just make sure, because it just sounds wrong. If you don't mind. Page 6 at the top. It was a very confusing conversation.
Page 7, under the park board item, second paragraph, and second to the last sentence, where it says storage of construction vehicles and materials for this project only. Thank you, Beth.
Anyone else? All those in favor of approving the minutes as corrected? Oh, George?
Well, I don't think you can because there's a question of a roll call there, so you really can't approve those as amended.
In order to do the bond refinancing and close on it Thursday, we do have to actually approve these minutes subject to corrections. From what I can recall, the actual roll call tally was correct as presented. It was 4-2 to 1. And so the amendment would just be that the tally is 4 ayes, 2 noes, and a present.
Right. So that needs to be reflected before we vote on the amendment? So you're saying who are the ayes, the noes, and the presents, so we have it clear in the minutes?
It's correct as
It's correct
stated.
as listed.
Yeah.
Top of page 5. Everybody's vote, but then
The tally is incorrect.
the ayes, the nays, and the presents are not reflected correctly.
It says 7 ayes, 0 nays,
Yes.
Gotcha.
but the actual votes are correct.
Okay, so all those in favor of approving the minutes as corrected, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, where are we at here? No mayor's report, Public Works Committee report.
A motion to approve a pavement management system proposal in an amount not to exceed $103,000 and authorize the mayor to execute.
So moved. Second.
Comments, questions on this one?
I do actually have a couple things I passed out to the city council. I think there's a couple on the table over there, and I can email it to anybody who's interested. First is an email from Mr. Sanderson, who couldn't be with us this evening, but Mr. Freeman is here and can answer questions. The breakdown of the cost of the study is included on the email from him to me this morning. And the total estimate is $103,000, yes. But the actual breakdown is 78 of it goes to the subcontractor for the work of driving all of the streets with a laser system, collecting the data, the purchase of software to maintain that data, and then a street and sign light inventory that'll get inserted into our GIS system, which will actually have some functionality with the pavement management program. 24,000 of it is actually going to go to EEI for their time to analyze the data, compile it, and put it into a report for us. So I know that there are questions in the community to the alderman, from the alderman to me, as to what our cost would be if we were in-house versus outsourcing engineers. And I can say that the amount associated with the subcontractor, which is about $78,000, is not something that we would have been able to do in-house. That would have still been outsourced costs. We don't have lasers. We don't have lasers on trucks. We don't have the data collection software. So that would have been costs that we would incur. So $78,000 is new cost as a result of doing this. The other $24,000, yes, if we were in-house, we would save that money by doing it. Again, that actual cost of hiring EI to do the analysis and the report is something that's rolled into their yearly contract too. So that's just a cost that we have to budget for. Let's see. One of the things that got brought up at a staff meeting today is probably 2/3 of the roads, the 115 miles of lane roads that the city has to maintain eventually, has not yet been accepted by the city. So we are going to be collecting data on roads that may have binder course on them or are 10 years away from being turned over to the city for maintenance purpose and our responsibility. One of the things that you can do, which actually will save developers money, which hopefully will encourage development in the future, is we could actually take a pro-rata share of the development's cost of the entire city and then charge them for that when they come to us and say, hey, would you take a look at our roads? We want you to accept them. We've already got the data compiled. We don't have to have an engineer go out and drive the roads and say, these roads meet our standards or they don't. That money is already collected. And because we did the entire city at once, theoretically, that cost should be cheaper to the developers than sending our engineers out to drive just the developments themselves. So again, that's something that will be incurred incrementally over time, but something I thought that was worth pointing out. This can be rolled over fiscal years as far as the cost goes. So you can vote on it at any time. And the work would be billed out as completed. So even if you were to authorize it today, I talked to Mr. Freeman, he didn't think that we'd be able to get all the lane roads driven and the data analyzed by winter, which is not when you want to do a laser data collection system on roadways. So we are looking at April 1, probably May 1 as a start date, which means the invoices would come in fiscal year 12 and 13. And I passed out, at the mayor's request actually, a spreadsheet of our estimated non-home rule sales tax, refinancing bond payments each year, and the amount of money that we expect to have for road improvements. We do have $100,000 budgeted in fiscal year 13. Again, you could move that forward to fiscal year 12. You could split that between a couple fiscal years. Or you could wait until fiscal year 13 to authorize it. So you do have some budget options there as far as timing of payment. And then, of course, your final option, if you do want to do this, is basically just to spend down a surplus each year. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, but we are expecting to run moderate surplus for the next 2 years, followed by deficits, which is something that we have to figure out over the next couple years here. So that's all I have.
Just a question for Bart. When we switched over from in-house engineering to EEI, we were told there'd be a cost savings. That number was somewhere between, what, 60, 90,000? Has that been narrowed down at all? Or
Yeah, for this year, we expect it to be about $60,000. For the next few years, the next 4 years, that'll be between $60,000 and $90,000 at least. And then after that, depending on our engineering contracts and whatever inflationary cost you put on your engineering, it would be $100,000 to $120,000 per year in today's dollars. So there still is a savings each year that even if you were to run your entire engineering budget for outsourcing at $180,000, tack this on top of it at 103, you're at $283,000, and I believe your total engineering budget last year was about $320,000. So even if you were to incur all those costs this year, it'd still be cheaper right now to outsource rather than be in-house.
Having said that, now, if we split this over 2 budget years, the savings we've achieved by switching to EEI is going to be more than enough to cover the cost of this study.
Currently, yes. And if that changes, obviously, I'll be back in front of you with a recommendation to change directions, but it appears on that track.
George? I stated this once before, but I want to say it again for the record, and excuse me if it gets long-winded. I believe we should spend that $100,000 in any other surpluses that we have. And, just because we're saving money for switching from in-house engineering to EEI doesn't mean we should take that savings and squander it. I believe we should take those surpluses and spend it without jeopardizing our debt payments and obligations on road resurfacing and repairs. During the last Public Works Committee meeting, and I mentioned this again because it's key, Bart suggested that we spend $100,000 on the study, and he could possibly come up with another $100,000 out of the budget to spend on roads. And my suggestion then would be spend $200,000 on roads. We've got $200,000 on roads, and the big picture of things is still really not a lot of money. I guess why waste $100,000 of our money on a study about road repair when we could be spending those dollars on the actual road repair itself? In the past, aldermen went out in the wards and turned in pictures and reported on the worst roads in their wards. That, combined with our staff's knowledge of which roads are the worst, we should not be spending $100,000 on this study at this time, and we should wait till economic times are more certain. And please remember, the key thing here is, and I state this again, we're spending money, that $100,000 that we're spending here for a study on roads is the only $100,000 we have in fiscal year 13 to spend on road repair. So if we spend it on a study, there is zero. And, even that being said, if we spend that money on the study, and we don't have any money to spend on road repair, we've done a study on something we can't do anything about immediately. So we're talking years out before we can even fix those roads. Once again, I urge you to take that $100,000 that we had budgeted for roads, spend it on road repair. And if there's surpluses, spend that on road repair. We all know that we have roads that are in dire straits and need to be repaired immediately. Let's not squander it on a study that we can't do anything about. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor? I don't agree with that. I don't think we're wasting money here. I think in the long run we're going to save the taxpayers money. And I don't know anybody on this council that's an engineer. I'm sure not. I couldn't tell you if a road's halfway to being a total disaster or if it can be saved. There's so much more looking at a road than just looking at the surface. There's drainage issues. There's, anything like that needs to be handled by an engineer. And none of us are engineers as far as I know. I said this before, I'll say it again. I think this is money well spent, but I would prefer to split it over 2 budgets. If we can do it that way, I think we need to move ahead with this.
In the past, what we did, and I'm not sure how many years ago, I didn't get to research it, but the council members were asked to drive through each ward, and I believe, Larry, you were on council at the time, and maybe Jason, and we drove through our wards, and we documented the streets that we believe needed to be repaved. And I remember clearly I had one in my ward that has never been repaved, and it was going on 25 years or something. But what we did, and to keep the politics out, We did tour our neighborhoods. Most of the wards submitted what they felt was priority. After that, we had, I believe, our police department, as well as, I believe, Public Works. Or it could have been engineering, but I think it was Public Works. And they toured all the streets as well and identified what they thought would be priority. And I would like to suggest that right now, just as a temporary fix, since we don't have this money. But it is a priority. I totally agree with having this study done. But until we find funds available in our budgets, I would like to hold off on approving this particular study. And I have every bit of faith in EEI as far as the job they will do. I really do. I would wholeheartedly support this. But we have other issues that are coming before us that I don't agree are essential needs. I think that a lot of them are just wants with some officials and some residents. And I think unless we get our priorities straight and determine the upcoming, in the very near future, what we're going to do as a council, whether we're going to approve certain things or not approve it. Put this on the back burner temporarily.
Anyone else? Marty?
Just got a couple questions. Bart, if we did the study and it recommends all these, do this road, how are we going to pay for it, the repairs?
That is undetermined, and that is, though, the first step in figuring out how you're going to pay for it is figuring out what that dollar amount per year is. And, that's the thing that I think is of greatest benefit is the study doesn't necessarily recommend worst first. There's the graph with a kind of an S-shaped curve on it. And basically, if you can hit a road with a preventative maintenance at a certain point, you can extend it exponentially for a number of years, so you save yourself money over the long run. So knowing that is an S-shaped curve, the study will say you need $700,000 basically to maintain the current road system that you have each year, otherwise it'll deteriorate at a certain rate. So that's the first step, is figuring out how much money you actually need to throw into your system each year to maintain the level of service, the level of roadways that you currently have.
Right, because I think back in the day, probably going back 8 years, like when Fox Hill had a couple of roads that were just cheaply taken care of before they deteriorated. I believe Eric, or I think you actually said that. So that part makes sense. My other question is, how much do we spend throwing on Game Farm Road, just throwing tar down there to kind of so cars don't fall in the holes?
Just this year, $50,000. In years past, it's been $50,000 or $75,000 each year for the past few.
Like throwing money out the window.
Yeah.
Because we weren't sure what the
They are temporary fixes.
plan was.
We plan on reconstructing it in 2015, 2016.
My last comment is that roads are probably the second most important thing that people talk to me about in the city other than police. So we obviously got to do it, and we got to do it right, and we got to do it for the long term. And again, just instead of just throwing tar and gravel out there, I like Alderman Cox's suggestion too, that if we can split this up in a 2-year budget or something, might make it better. But you got to have a plan to do anything right. You can't just something this big, and not just roads, anything. You got to have some kind of plan. And if we don't have the people in house anymore because the department's gone, we save money there. It's kind of, to me, it might be a good thing to do. It's a hard decision.
You bring up some good points. I mean, I keep hearing a study of road repair, and it's more than just a study of what roads need to be repaired. As a first step in creating a pavement management program, it's pretty much for the long term. We're not looking at just next year. We're looking at next 5, 10, 15 years. The long-term maintenance and how we're going to handle these maintenance costs. I know before a lot of us sitting here on the campaign trail, there was 2 recurring themes, and Marty hit on them both. We talked a lot about public safety, and the last 2 meetings we swore in a new officer. I mean, we're putting cops on the street, and we're going to continue to so long as the budget allows. And we talked about public works. We got to start addressing these roads. And like I said, not just next year, 5, 10 years, we have to get on a program that maintains our roads, and we need a plan that's based on facts. I mean, we can't send police cars up and down the roads to look at streets that need to be repaired. We need facts based on engineering, and, we spend a lot of money on our roads. And we invest a lot of taxpayer dollars. This is just a way to protect that investment.
I just have a question for Eric real quickly. That retroreflectivity, are they going to take that out? I mean, is that going to be gone? I heard that. I don't know if it's true or not.
It's not gone.
I mean, for like street signs, and it seemed like they were going to lessen it
They've
somewhat.
eased up on the dates. They're not so strict dates anymore. It's as needed to be replaced. And we still have black and white street signs out there that don't meet any criteria.
Right, because I had heard, I don't know if this is true, but like street signs, like the road signs, to say what road is what, that was potentially going to be taken out of that? No?
No, just the date's been moved.
Just the dates, okay.
Yeah.
Because that's part of this study.
That is.
Okay. I think this is a good tool to use. I think that it is something that we could do eventually, but I still don't think we're going to have the money to do anything, including repairing or, maintaining the roads that that they tell us that we need to maintain, because I don't know how much that costs to maintain, to do the maintenance on the roads. If we get a road study and says, 13 roads need to be maintained, and this is what you need to do, how much is that? How much does that cost? Does anybody know?
Sorry, can you ask the question again?
If this study comes back and says, okay, you have, 30 miles of road that need to be maintained, and it'll keep them good for another 25 years, do we know how much that costs to do that?
Essentially, that's the goal of the study. The city has 115 miles, lane miles right now.
Right.
Right now, as we sit here, and maybe even if we drove all of them, we wouldn't know for sure how many of them.
No, I understand that it would tell us what roads need some preventive maintenance, but how much does preventive maintenance cost?
It depends on what you do as far as preventive maintenance. There was a graph in Brad's presentation at the last council meeting. You can do some cheaper efforts with crack sealing, then it marches up to grind and overlay, and then, of course, the most expensive is to reconstruct the whole roadway.
Right.
The idea is to try to catch the roads early on when you can do the crack sealing to extend the life of the pavement. Right now, with the worst is first approach, you're often on the declining end of that curve, and therefore it's the most expensive to actually rehab it to get it back up to standard. With the study, because you have so many roads, it goes through the objective review of the truck to identify where the defects are on the roads, inventories them, use the software to do an economic analysis for the city to determine how you can stretch your dollars the longest over time.
Okay, so we're going to spend $100,000 on the study, and then we're going to find out that there's some roads that need to, crack filling and an overlay, and that's going to cost, I don't know how much, but then we're going to have to find more money when we could just, I think our people are out there enough. They know what roads need crack filling. I don't know. I just don't know. But I just think right now is not a good time to do it. It's definitely something that we should do, but I don't think right now is a good time to do it, because I think that once we do have money to repair these roads, we're going to have to update this study, and that's going to cost more money by the time we have money to actually do something with the study.
Right now, we don't know what we really have out there. There's the police department drives the roads, the public works, they drive the roads. We know that they're bad roads, but we don't have an assessment or a tool to go through and plan. Right now, we budget a specific amount of money based on what we think is the best use, i.e. Game Farm Road, $50,000 a year to patch it. It doesn't make a lot of sense to keep tossing the money out there. We have issues that need to be addressed, and we can't be doing it. In the past, they've said, having aldermen go out there and create the list, or having the police department go out there. Too many politics involved. I understand that's the way to do it, but it's not the best and most efficient way. We don't know what we're looking at. We don't know what we're looking for. It's not the tool that we should be using. We should be looking at the plan so we can actually plan to budget and achieve the goal of correcting our roads. $100,000 is what we're looking at. We're talking millions of dollars of road repairs that are out there. It's in excess of $1 million of what our standard should be to be maintaining our roads. We're nowhere close to that. We don't know what we need to be doing when to bring our roads up to par, where they are acceptable to the residents. $100,000 is a plan to get us on that path. I know we don't have a lot of money right now, but if we do spread it over the 2 fiscal years, that will help us to at least start to budget for an acceptable amount of money to get towards those goals that we're not achieving now.
One more thing, Mayor. Let's look at raw data here. Okay, let's look at the table you provided and all the facts you spit out tonight. In fiscal year 12, there is zero money in road for capital improvements. In fiscal year 13, there's $100,000 you have for capital road improvements. Even if EEI started in 12, started next year, and you roll $50,000 back of that to spread it out over 2 fiscal years, and you put $50,000 in 12 and $50,000 in 13 to pay for that, regardless, let's go to next year, to the fiscal year 14 year. You still have only, now first of all, mind you, the $100,000 that you budgeted for money for road improvements in fiscal year 13 may or may not be there. You're assuming it's going to be there. We assumed there'd be money for roads this year, and there wasn't. So it may or may not be there. You're counting on something that's may not necessarily be there to spend, number one. But let's take it a step further. Fiscal year 14 at $393,208, which we assume will be there for road repair. Even if you combine that with the $50,000 that you're going to use in 13, that still only leaves $450,000. And if you blew $100,000 on Game Road, you're still not getting much repair. And, you know, let's talk about the residents' wants and the residents' wishes. And I know for sure they want their roads repaired. And if you spend $100,000 on a study, whether you split it out in 1 year or 2 years, even if you go out through 14, you only have, counting that there's money there that may not be there, you're still only going to have $490,000, not even that, because you're going to break up that 100 for 12. You're going to have $430,000 or so of money to spend on roads, and that's assuming it's there. So it's foolish at this point to spend money on spend $100,000 on a study when we barely got enough money right now, assuming it'll be there under the capital improvements for road improvements through fiscal year 14.
Larry?
Just a clarification. Does having this study completed give us any advantage when it comes to applying for grants? The fact that we've got all this in place?
Certainly. When identifying the state of the local roads, when setting out to get grants, it will help you to show what level of deterioration is and how high your needs are overall, certainly.
And let me just address that, Larry, because tonight Congressman Hoagland is in district. He had a roundtable with local mayors to talk about transportation issues. I couldn't attend because I had to be here, but I sent Christy there. Christy is talking with the mayor with the congressman about transportation issues. On Thursday, I have a meeting with the Kendall Kane Council of Mayors. I'm on the transportation committee. They're the ones who distribute all the federal funds that come through. Every mayor sits there with their handout, saying, we need money for roads, we need money for roads. Well, at least we can sit there with our handout and say, look, we need money for roads, and here's why. Here's the condition of our roads. Here's where we're going to put that money to use. So I think that does help quite a bit when you're talking with state or federal representatives.
The state's broke, Gary. The state's broke.
Depends on what you're talking about.
I mean, you can talk all you want, put your head out all you want, but the state's broke too. So where are you going to get the money? It's not there.
That hasn't stopped them.
Well, but okay, but do you feed a broken system?
You're giving it out. I want to get it.
I'm just saying, you don't feed a broken system.
Anyone else?
Well, I just want to say, I think the survey and the idea is an excellent idea. The problem is that, like George said, after we have our study done and we have this great thing in front of us that shows us exactly what we need, we have no money. So what's the point of having this study done right now? I think we're in a position to start putting more money into the road funds. It's a must-have. We need to do this study. The problem is, in our projections right now for the next 6 years, it totals about $1.8 million over 6 years to fix roads. In the road war world, $1.8 million is nothing. I mean, we're talking about patching here. So we're going to spend $100,000 to be told what we already know. You don't have the money to fix your roads. So the first thing we have to do is first things first. Our fund balance is still in the negative. let's work on our fund balance. Let's start working ourselves out, which we have been. Our fund balance has improved greatly in the last couple of months, and we're projected to be in the black soon. Great. Let's keep going down that road. Secondly, we have a surplus projected for the next 2 years, but then we have a deficit projected for 2 years after that. So if we start spending this surplus and saying we can shift money from the surplus here and put it over there, that's fine and dandy for 2 years, but what happens in the third year or 4th year when we're in a deficit? The study is great. EEI will do a great job, and someday we will commission this study. Right now, it's not the time. We need to get our financial house in order. So I'll be voting no.
Anyone else?
I just was going to say very quickly, George pointed out that we have $100,000 for 13, nothing in 12, and we paid $50,000 to patch Game Farm Road this year, or is that overall?
This year.
This year. So if we spend that money, if something happens and one of the roads needs some major patching, we're not even going to have that money in there to do it.
Okay, any more comments?
Mr. Mayor, just want to make sure, when we vote on this, is it with the understanding it's going to get split between two budgets, or do we need to make an amendment to the motion?
I don't think anything would happen until at least April, correct?
Yeah, as far as incurred expenses go, and kind of the back end of this too is we would have to do a budget amendment to actually fit this expense in. So if you said, let's go ahead with it, then I would bring back as part of the budget process the timing for it. Knowing that we probably aren't going to be starting until April, that gives us a few months to figure out the timing and the decision making. So it'd be my recommendation to spread it over 2 fiscal years if you do authorize it.
Or,
This would have to come back because, what's presented in front of us from EI has specific dates in there. Those dates would all have to be amended based on what we're talking about here, moving it to possibly next year or the next fiscal year. So those dates would no longer be valid. They'd have to revise that proposal to come back to us.
We could, if you want to essentially define dates now, we would certainly be willing to do that and then, prove it based on that. It's up to you, whatever you prefer.
or we could do whatever.
I don't think we need to allocate the dates now. I think we need to vote. And if this thing passes, then we'll figure out the budgetary issues and we'll figure out the dates and do all that. If it fails, then it's a moot point and there's really no reason to discuss it.
So call the question.
Or we could do what every other political body does and just kick it down the road and talk about it some more during the budget process.
I'd like to call the question.
Okay. Can you need a motion in a second?
Call the question. Do you want to vote on calling the question?
I don't think we need to. We're ready to vote, right?
Okay, great.
Yeah. So roll call.
Gilson?
Nay.
Teeling?
Nay.
Buckhauser?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
Pelosino?
Nay.
Spears?
Nay.
Munns?
Aye.
Wilczewski?
Aye.
Okay. There you go, Gary. You knew that was coming. You knew that was coming.
Yes.
Whoa.
And again, we'll talk about it some more during budget time. I mean, we're not looking to jump into it right now, so. Okay, next, Economic Development Committee report.
Yes, I'd like to make an amendment approving ordinance, EDC 2011-33, approving ordinance for an economic incentive agreement between the United City of Yorkville and Boomba.
So moved.
Second.
Can I explain that in favor or
Say that again?
want me to say what happened on the committee?
Yeah, go for it. You introduce it.
Just a couple of comments. They moved us out of Economic Development Committee with a positive recommendation. This company is asking for sales tax rebate like we've approved for other larger possible employers over the past years. We've been talking about needing positive economic growth for a long time, talking about building up the downtown. Since I've been on the council 11 years, we haven't done anything. We do need some positive economic growth. The jobs on the minds of everyone, like the gentleman talked about tonight. This will be 90-plus jobs for Yorkville, and I believe this will be a good, fair agreement for the United City of Yorkville and the company suggesting it. So.
The only question I had, and Rick and Boyd and Jason, thank you very much for your patience with us and getting through this process. I appreciate it. The only question I had, which I don't have a problem with the agreement at all, I just don't want to commit to something. I don't know if we have the authority to do so. It's just the change of name on the road. I don't mind changing the name on the road. I have no issue with changing the name on the road. I think Boomba Boulevard sounds pretty cool, and I'd like to have it. First, I don't know if we have the authority to change the name. We have to work the Postal Service. But second of all, I don't know if that road itself can actually be designated a boulevard based on the standards from the Postal Service. So it might have to be Boomba Avenue. But I don't mind doing it. I just want to make sure we have the statutory authority to do it, so I don't want to commit to something that we can't do.
I don't think it is a problem with the boulevard, but I will ask, because everyone's present, if there is a difference and we have to flip to Avenue, we're still okay?
Because Boulevard, you can't have trucks on, at least in the city of Chicago.
That's not
I'm not aware that we have specific provisions in our ordinance that require the naming of...
in the city of Chicago, in the olden days, the boulevard meant you had
The median.
Right.
I'm an old Cook County boy, so every time I think of boulevard, I think of the median.
That's Boulevard,
Right, I'm just old.
I just want to make sure if you guys have a problem with boulevard or avenue, whatever the post office says, or I'm good with it.
Well, they actually wanted Boomba Town.
Boombaville.
I think in the past, whenever we assigned a street name or approved it, it had to go to KenCom, the fire department, law enforcement department. Everybody had to approve it, just in case I don't think there would be a conflicting name or an identical name, but it has to go through that process also.
There's not that I know, but even if it's close, they don't like it when it's close because there's a Sunset Lane and Sunset Avenue. And they don't like it, or they do.
There's no Boombas in
There is Boomer Lane, and they don't like it over the radio when it's close.
That's true. Yes.
Any other comments, questions? George?
I think this project would be good for Yorkville. If the petitioner can redevelop this downtown on a grand scale, as he's committing to do. I do have a couple questions about this agreement and wanted to get a couple clarifications, and I had a couple things, suggestions. Can Bart or staff explain in layman's terms to residents and anybody watching tonight where the TIF funds come from for this sort of redevelopment, and just for the residents who don't know how our TIF works?
Sure. This agreement references downtown TIF incentives, only in that what we're doing is if Boomba generates $50,000 per year, we're rebating $25,000 to them. What we're committing to do is basically spending $25,000 of TIF funds, so it's already in the TIF funds, if they're there, in the downtown, and then consulting with, it'd be Imperial Investments and Boomba, whichever corporate entity they want, as to where we actually spend that money. So to the extent that there's money in the TIF fund generated from all the properties in the TIF, we commit to spending a certain percentage of it each year and then asking for their input along the way. So it doesn't come from the general fund and go into the TIF fund. It's already in the TIF fund, and we're just saying, okay, the equivalent to that is what we're going to do.
Right, and I guess I'm still think there's going to be a lot of residents who still are unclear where do those TIF funds actually come from.
Oh, sure. Well, I'm going to turn that over to Kathy. That's your bread and butter.
TIF funds are the result of improvements to the properties. For example, if you buy a parcel of property at a certain cost called X, you then invest in the property, rehab the property, so now it's worth 2 times X. The increase, the multiple of 2, that you're doubling the value of the property, obviously increases your taxes. That occurs whether you're in a TIF district or not in a TIF district. But if you are in a TIF district, The municipality gets that increase in taxes with very severe restrictions and caveats. And one of them is that those dollars must be solely invested, not in any operational cost of the municipality, but solely invested in improvements in their property. So that this boom bar agreement, which is a unique concept and I think a good concept that might be considered, is we are going to ask the developer, we're going to use the TIF dollars for public improvements, for improvements to the city of Yorkville, downtown TIF district. But what we're going to do is we're going to say to the developer, where would you think we should put this, because it hopefully will induce that developer to do more in the specific area that we're going to do public improvements. So that it's going to be, we hope, a new concept and a new partnership. But we're still spending taxpayers' dollars for taxpayer improvements. All we're doing with TIF dollars is limiting it to an area. So it's dollars produced by the area, reinvested in the area.
And that being said, and just for knowledge's sake, when the petitioner or the developer comes forward and says, we've got a project and we want to start and we want to use TIF funds, and if the funding isn't there,
we're not using TIF funds. We are using TIF funds to do public improvements in the downtown. We're going to say to them, should we fix the road on this block or this block? They say, well, we want on this block. Well, tell us why. Well, if you're going to do something to generate other private investment on that block, okay, we'll do that block first. That's the idea here. We are not using TIF dollars for these TIF dollars that we're committing in this. We're using general TIF dollars to reinvest.
In each property in the downtown that Imperial Investments or any developer chooses to develop, Follies Theater, Cobblestone, they're going to have to come to us and negotiate a TIF agreement for one or multiple properties in the same agreement. And we get to talk then about what we're going to give them and what we get in return. So that still has to be negotiated for each parcel or in a group when they're ready to talk to us.
And if
that's not this agreement.
I understand. Correct. I understand. If they're not there, though, then what's the procedure from there?
We have no. If the TIF dollars are not generated, we have no commitment to discuss anything with anybody.
So we won't be looking to bond or take out.
Oh no. No. We're just trying to create a cooperative effort here to redevelop the downtown.
Okay. The two suggestions I have to this is, number one, I've asked this in the past and I was told you always have provisions implemented into the incentive agreements when we're talking about protecting ourselves against TIF failures. For example, Countryside Center and Tuscany Plaza, which I consider are two very large failures on behalf of our TIFs. Where in this agreement would we implement something that would protect us?
We're not, this agreement, I understand your point, and I think it's a valid point. I think it's something that must be incorporated when we're working with a developer on a particular project. We are not using TIF dollars. Here, we're not committing TIF dollars to the developer. We're going to work with the developer in helping us decide where we invest the TIF dollars in public streets, our city project.
Our infrastructure.
So if it's not there, that means we can do one less road in the downtown. Future projects, however, that will be an absolute important consideration in the agreement.
Okay. And then the other question or actually suggestion I have is under section 12 under liability, remedies and liability, where it states the city may not exercise any remedies against Boomba in connection with such failure until 30 days after giving such notice. If such default cannot be cured within such 30-day period, such period shall be extended for such time as is reasonably necessary for curing the same issue, so long as Boomba diligently proceeds with such cure. If such default is cured within such extended period, the default shall not be deemed to constitute a breach of this economic incentive agreement. That, to me, seems pretty open, too open for what I feel comfortable with in terms of, all right, we give a written notice of a default. And I'm not saying you guys you're a very viable company. So don't take this the wrong way. I'm not even saying this would be a scenario, but I'm looking out for the city's behalf. Let's say we give a written notice of default and we give 30 days to cure, and then they say, well, we don't have it, but we're going to work on it, and someone decides that meets the extension and we extend it, but we don't have any sort of a timeline for how long that extension can be.
Because, for example, the agreement requires any developer to obey all laws and ordinances. One of them are landscaping ordinance, and it's now November. They can't comply until February, March. It depends. They have to be diligently pursuing. And I do think that is an objective criteria. In this agreement, we're safer than most also because it's a sales tax rebate, so that if they in any way stop operating, there's no sales tax, they don't get it. But there's so many facets of development that don't have a strict timeline, that's the language that over the years seems to work the best. And the key phrase is diligently pursuing. That's not a subjective criteria. That's more objective than subjective.
More objective than subjective?
I think so.
So what does diligent pursue mean?
Diligently pursuing would mean they'd have to show us a contract with the landscape, in the case that as soon as the weather breaks, they will be able to get to it.
Just a question, Mr. Mayor. On page 5 of this agreement, under C, for the rebate, one of the conditions is that the company invests in excess of $2 million in the downtown district. Two questions. Number one, over what time frame is that? And number two, how do we monitor that?
It's an immediate threshold, so they don't get it until they do that. So, we will monitor that by asking them to provide proof.
But this is, they have to invest $2 million for us to ask for their opinion on where we're going to invest our funds. This isn't the 50% rebate, okay? They have no right to talk to us or give us an idea of priority of where to spend the TIF funds. I'll read it. The city also covenants and agrees that during the rebate period, while we're giving them reimbursement, okay, the city agrees to expend incremental real estate taxes available as a direct result of the TIF Act, the incremental taxes, okay, to the downtown district in an amount equal to 50%. So if in year 2013 they have $60,000 in sales tax, we say to them, okay, we'll take your advice on where our first $30,000 of TIF funds should be invested. But we're not going to take your advice until you have a $2 million investment in our downtown, because then it's not a cooperative effort. They're not committed to the downtown. That's what that paragraph means.
Okay, so it's tied to TIF.
Right, it's tied to our commitment to work together. And we want to work together, but we want to work together after they've made a decent commitment to our downtown.
Would then I read that with this, let's see, economic development grant, expend incremental real estate taxes available, assuming that there are funds available and that they have expended $2 million, we are committing to expend those TIF funds. If they have not met the fact $2 million investment, we're not obligated to expend those TIF funds.
We're obligated to use TIF funds to reinvest in the downtown.
We're not obligated
but
to
we're
use
not
them
obligated to work in a cooperative manner. We'll just do whatever we want in our own downtown district.
I just want to clarify the cooperative manner in which we work with them is we absolutely get their input, but at the end of the day, how taxpayer dollars are spent ultimately is decided by these 8 people on this council.
And you'll notice the words say the city shall consult. We believe that if we came with a TIF project to the city and said we want to do this street as opposed to this street, because there's going to be a new development here that we will work together. I can't imagine.
Right, and I just want to clarify,
I appreciate that.
for the people watching,
The commitment
that at
is-
the end of the day, how the taxpayer money is used is decided by this council. We will have input from MUBA, but no non-elected official will
We
decide how
have-
to spend taxpayer money.
Exactly. We have an obligation to consult.
Correct.
Just one other quick question for Boomba. I know we talked about 90 employees. Is that 90 employees total at that location it's going to bring to Yorkville, or?
Currently, we have approximately 100 employees currently in the
From Morris, I mean?
From Morris, that are coming from over. There are additional employees, probably maybe additional 10 or 12 that aren't at this location.
So you're going to bring all 100 from Morris over here?
Yeah, everything will come here.
Okay. I just, in our agreement, it talks about the 90 jobs it's going to bring to Yorkville. That's not really the case, correct? You're going to bring your Morris employees. I hope you do. I mean, you should still show some loyalty to those employees. You're going to bring them here to man this facility, correct?
Yeah, I mean, there's some that don't want to drive. We will allow those to run, but we would like to bring with us. But that's, I'm just saying the whole scope of the number of jobs we bring. Additionally, we have peak. We were up to 120 employees in March of last year. So we have a peak during the baseball, softball season. So we'll ride up and go back to 90. Hopefully, we have a lot of growth plans. So we'd like to see 250 every year.
Great.
We agree. Oh, I'd like it too.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Teeling.
Aye.
Holthauser.
Aye.
Left.
Aye.
Pelosi vote.
Aye.
Spears.
Aye.
Munns.
Aye.
Hilstewski.
Aye.
Gilson.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, we have no public safety committee report. We have a couple items under admin that were moved off of consent agenda. We will take number 4 first. Government 2011-49. Bart, you want to?
Sure. I think ultimately I would recommend postponement of this for 2 weeks, but it is important, I think, for a minute or two to tell you why. For those of you that are in admin or have read the detailed ordinance very thoroughly, ultimately we'd be going to referendum for an opt-out electric supplier program. So everybody that's a residential or a small commercial customer in the city would save between 20 or 30% on their supplier portion of their bill, which is about 33% of their total bill, each year, each month after the referendum is in place, the opt-out period ends, and we put together a program where people can opt out and the terms and conditions of the actual electricity program. What we found is that the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus has actually partnered with an electric supplier in the near term. Okay, our referendum wouldn't be on the ballot even until March. You have to pass an ordinance that talks about governance, how people opt out, what the time period is, what the terms of the contract are. So we wouldn't actually have our program in place until probably August of 2012. So you're not saving any money between now and then. But the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus has partnered with an energy supplier to save residents probably 15 to 18% of their supplier program from now until then. But it's opt-in. So we can publicize the information. We don't have to do a referendum. We don't have to do a governing ordinance. We don't have to spend staff time on it. We can communicate that to everybody and say, we think you should opt into this, but review the terms and conditions and make the decision yourself. Ultimately, I still think we would recommend doing the referendum in March and approving it 2 weeks from now. It's just we probably need another 2 weeks to discuss how the governing plan gets put together, whether we want to take the staff time to do all that, and then ultimately go forward with it. The final thing with it is the X factor in the entire situation is that this whole system is created by the fact that ComEd locked their prices for energy supplies in years ago when prices were very volatile. So they're at about 7 cents, I believe, a kilowatt hour, and all these other energy suppliers are about 5.5 cents, which is where the savings comes in. but those prices are set to expire in June of 2013, which means there's a possibility that we could only see 9 months of savings after going through our energy supply referendum, and then we're back at square one, and the thing gets dissolved. So we want to spend another 2 weeks talking about that, and we'll bring it back in front of you then.
So that's what we want, motion to table?
Yes.
Entertain a motion to table this until next meeting?
I'll make a motion to table.
Second. Roll call, please.
Hunt.
Aye.
Pelosino.
Aye.
Spears. Aye. Munns.
Aye.
Wilczewski.
Aye.
Gilson.
Aye.
Teeling.
Aye.
Buckhead.
Aye.
Okay, and then the next item is admin 2011-24. Diane, you have to pull this off. It's ordinance regarding city council procedures.
Yeah, I did. Just because I have a couple of problems with it that I don't agree with, and I just wanted to bring them up and see. Obviously, the administration committee doesn't agree with me. But I liked when, I thought it was better when the aldermen picked the committee that they were going to be on. I thought it was more fair. And also, it ended up that there was only one alderman from each ward on each committee, because currently we have, and I know I've talked about this before, and I've been told, oh, well, it doesn't matter because it ultimately comes to city council. But that's not necessarily true, because the ordinance we just passed today with the roads, the pavement management, that would have been killed in committee, and it came forward. So I just think that, because what committee? Public Works has 2 aldermen from Ward 2, the Economic Development has 2 aldermen from Ward 3, and the Administration Committee has 2 aldermen from Ward 1. And I just think that each committee should be represented by someone in each ward. And then also, so I mean, there's wards missing from 3 of the committees, that they're not being represented. Next, I also wanted to point out that it says that each committee shall be presided over by its chairman, or in the absence of the chairman, the vice chairman. We have never gotten vice chairmans on any of the committees.
That's not true. We have a vice chairman of public safety.
When? Vice chairman?
I'm a chair of public works and the vice chair of admin. Alderman Constant, vice chair of public safety.
When was that decided? Because I don't remember that ever being, in fact, I asked Bart about it. I asked you about vice chairman. We don't have a vice chairman. Remember when we were missing our chairman, and I said, we don't even have a vice chairman, who's going to run the meeting?
I do recall that. There was a period there where none had been appointed by the mayor, and then after that fact, I believe they were appointed by the mayor.
When? Did I miss the meeting? Was I not here?
Day,
I don't recall that ever happening.
Well, from public safety's point of view, it was discussed in public safety amongst the committees, and the committee voted with the mayor's recommendation, and we appointed Alderman Cott as our vice chairman. It was a committee function, so each committee does that on their own.
Well, it says the mayor shall select the committee chairman and the vice chairman. So.
Right, and I just said we agreed with the mayor's recommendation of Alderman Cott, and we discussed it in public safety, and we voted on it, and Alderman Cott became our vice chairman.
Okay, well, I mean, I just think that this should be done more openly in a meeting if we're going to have vice chairman. Our Public Works Committee has no vice chairman. It has never been appointed, and I know it because we were missing our chairman.
That's correct. In Public Works, we have not appointed a vice chairman.
And no one told us, and no one...
We haven't had a
I mean, this is very strange to me. I mean,
Every committee has a vice chairman.
No.
There was Alderman Michalewski was appointed.
We do not have a vice chairman. I ran the meeting that night, and I have never been appointed a vice chairman or a chairman.
Appointed vice chairman for every committee.
No.
There was actually an admin committee. I listened to the tape, and all 4 have been appointed.
Yes.
There is a meeting that it was
Okay,
done.
I am on the city council, so I think I should know that should be told to me, or it should be brought up at a city council meeting when I'm here. I just can't believe that, in an admin committee meeting, what else do you do in an admin committee meeting without letting the entire city council know?
I'm not an admin. I've listened to it. There are 4 chairs in there, and
Yeah, I listened to some of those meetings too.
On the last Public Works Committee meeting agenda, committee packet, which I don't have with me, who's listed under the committee members?
I don't.
I have it right
I
here.
mean, it's right here, we should know it.
I have it right here.
Okay, Public Works, chairman, and then committee. So there's nobody listed under vice chair for all these. But that's, but this is the council meeting agenda. I'm talking about your, pull up a committee meeting packet and pull up the Public Works and find out who's the chair and who's the vice chair.
And I still would like to point out that I think that the committee should be picked by the city council members. I think that getting rid of the governing ordinance and letting the mayor pick out the chairmans of the committee, I just think it wasn't a very diplomatic way of doing it. I think that, we all should have an opportunity to chair a committee and to pick what committee we wanted to be on, instead of who asked who first.
Just bear with me, because I'd like to hear this too. I'd like to see who's listed under the Public Works packet under chair and vice chair. I know I'm the chair, but I don't think I know who the vice chair is in my own committee. Yeah.
It's pulling up. I'm not. It's downloading.
Because I know admin has one, and I know public safety has one, but I don't know Public Works has one. That's why I'm asking.
I don't know if economic development has one either. Do we?
Yeah, I believe the conversation at the admin committee revolved around the fact that without a governing ordinance, the mayor selects the committee, the chairman, and whatever other seats there are on the committee, including vice chairman. So if I recall correctly, that was the discussion. I don't remember who was appointed what. Mayor, I think you were at that meeting.
Yeah, it was in the admin meeting, I don't recall.
I recall. Alderman Cott was appointed vice chairman of public safety.
Okay.
Alderman Chris was appointed economic development. Jackie was appointed public works, and George was appointed administration.
Okay, that's great. But I think that should have been brought to city council, or at least given that information to the other members of the city council, because unless you're at that meeting or you get the minutes, or you don't know.
It happened at an open meeting. I don't know what else to tell you. I know you don't agree with it, but you know what? That's
too bad, right?
I have to agree with Diane, because I didn't know that I was...
Thank you. You didn't know. Remember, because you were at that meeting, too.
Yeah,
you were vice chair.
Because I didn't know you were vice chair of Public Works either, so...
It didn't filter down to our...
Yeah, so, too bad, we didn't know.
Well, hence we have a governing ordinance today to vote on. That's why we brought it up today. That's why we have one today to vote on, Diane.
That's great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Just on the point of having one alderman from each ward on the committee, I know we used to do it that way. I don't think it's all that important. Everybody brings a certain expertise to the table here. There may be times where it works having, two aldermen from the same ward on a committee because of their backgrounds. And besides, if there's something on a committee that I'm not on that I want to address, I'll go to that meeting and address it. It's as simple as that. I get the agenda. I know it's there. I'll go to the meeting. So I don't think that's an issue.
And I second that. I agree with Larry on that, 100%.
I think in the future, maybe we should address the liaison reports that we don't get. If people are assigned to a specific committee or board as our liaison, I think that it should be reported to the rest of the council, whatever is going on in the particular meeting, because there's a lot of things I'm not aware of.
I guess I have one comment and something off of Rose's now. As to the Public Works with the road study, are you saying because Larry and I are Ward 2, that's why it came here?
Well, no, I just think, I don't know,
I guess I disagree with that.
Yeah, it did come here anyways. It could have been killed in committee.
It could have been deadlocked there, whether it was 2 Ward 2 people.
It couldn't have been deadlocked.
It would have been killed.
It would have been deadlocked, but we had aldermen who brought it forth, and that's how it came here anyway. So if you guys want to bring it forth, they're going to pull it out of committee regardless, so why not have an open discussion?
So I guess to say that I guess to shoot that we're not all represented of all the wards, to say that affected it coming here, I disagree with you. And then as to Rose with the liaisons, can staff please get us a list of what spots are open? Can we, everybody here, have a list of who is what liaison to what needs? I don't even know what's open, to be totally honest with you. Never heard? So if we could do that, I'd appreciate it. I think everybody else would like to know. Thank you.
Liaison positions open, Bud?
I don't know.
If we could just research it?
Back to you. Yeah.
Thank you.
I just want to point out in the new governing ordinance, a situation like on George's committee with the road study, it's the perfect example of how the new governing ordinance handles that situation. It was deadlocked, and in essence, that did die in committee. The study did die in committee. It didn't have enough votes to come out of committee. However, based on the new governing ordinance, if it passes tonight, any 4 aldermen can bring it in front of the city council. Of course, the mayor by himself can bring it in front of the city council. But if the mayor doesn't wish to do so, the 2 aldermen that were for it in committee could then get 2 other aldermen that are not in that committee to agree with them to bring it to council, and it's before the council. So, I mean, the governing ordinance the new governing ordinance that we have does address that very scenario. If something dies in committee and you really support it, if you can get 2 other aldermen not on your committee to support you, it comes before the council. If you can't, then obviously it doesn't have enough legs to come before us. So it would just naturally die in committee. So I think the new governing ordinance is very simple. It's about 1.5 pages long, and I think it covers most of our bases.
If you don't have the 4 votes, you can't get 4 people to put it on the agenda, it wouldn't pass anyway, so it would just be wasting people's time.
Right.
Anything else? I'll entertain a motion to approve an ordinance regarding city council procedures and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Hutt.
Aye.
Colosimo.
Aye.
Spears.
Aye.
Munns.
Aye.
Milczewski.
Aye.
Gilson.
Aye.
Teeling.
Nay.
Funkhauser.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Do we have a clerk board report?
No, we do not.
No plan commissioners, ZBA report, no city council report, city clerk report, city treasurer report, community and liaison reports. No liaison reports. I do have a couple of announcements. Friday is Veterans Day. Thank you, veteran. Thank you. Veteran, thank you, veteran. Take a veteran out to dinner.
Tips too.
The American Legion has a take a veteran to breakfast on Sunday morning, 8 to 12 or something like that. So grab a veteran and go to the American Legion for breakfast. Before we meet again, we will have Holiday Under the Stars downtown. The event is scaled down a little bit this year. Staff is kind of looking at less financial exposure to the city, but we'll still have the Kris Kringle Market. Downtown merchants are having a lot of different activities. Still have the ice skating rink. Santa Claus will be there to light the tree at 5 o'clock. To kick off that day, WGN will be here broadcasting at Cobblestone Bakery. I will have a live interview with Greg Jarrett at 6:15 a.m. So feel free to come out and have a maple...
AM or PM?
AM.
Okay.
Come on out and have a maple bacon donut. World famous maple bacon donut. During Holiday Under the Stars 2, the chamber asked if any of us would volunteer to judge the decorating contest. Businesses are having a decorating contest. I volunteered myself if we want a panel together. I was going to nominate Diane. If anyone wants to join me, you're more than welcome. What else do we have? Then weekend 2, Taste of Yorkville coming up. We'd like the restaurants to get a lot of support, so if you're not doing anything on Saturday evening, jump on the trolley, on a bus, going to all the different restaurants in Yorkville. Sunday we have the chili chase going, so not this weekend, but next weekend, lots of activities in our downtown. Hope to see everyone out there. Did I miss anything? Not.
Is Mrs. Santa going to be there as well this
I don't
year?
believe so.
No, I think it's just Mr. Claus this year.
Boys night out. Do we have any staff reports, Bart?
Don't believe so.
Any additional business? Yes.
I have a very important one. Oswego is, the Knights of Columbus and Oswego is going to be hosting a trivia night on November 19th, and it begins at 6 p.m., and it's a fundraiser for the Special Olympics. And the cost is $25 per person, and if you win the trivia contest, then your money could be refunded if you choose to take it back. We are going to have a table. The city's going to have a table, and we are looking for, we have to have a maximum of, or minimum of 10 people. And so far, I think we have like 4 or 6. So if anybody wants to sign up, please let me know as soon as possible, and we'll reserve a table.
Come in.
Great.
Anyone else, additional business? Going once?
Well, I'd just like to add, if you haven't tried the maple bacon donut in Cobblestone, you are missing out on the good stuff in life. Let me tell you, I thought it wasn't going to be a good mix, and I went and had one. It's pure heaven, so I highly recommend it.
Oh, yeah.
Litigation.
We do have an executive session. I will entertain a motion to adjourn into executive session for the discussion of minutes and
Land acquisition and
land
litigation.
acquisition.
So moved. And litigation.
And litigations.
Second.
Chris made the motion, Carl seconded. Roll call, please.
Peterson?
Aye.
Machuski?
Aye.
Pelissero?
Aye.
Todd?
Aye.
Teeling? Gilson?
Aye.
Lefferts?
Sure.
The mayor's going to talk to the